Hey, Ryan. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
It's time to talk about AI stuff again.
Indeed. It's like it never ends.
Yeah. And I guess we can do a quick recap of what we've been talking about. I'll go ahead and share my screen. There's a few
Good.
things I want to talk about here on the site. The first thing is the last episode that we did is not necessarily this episode.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes there's one in progress or one in the queue.
Right. So I did just post this on Friday. However, you and I got together Thursday, I think it was. And
It might even have been Friday. Yeah. Last week was a blur.
maybe it was Thursday, Friday.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
everything's a blur. Anyway, we got together again and decided to hit record and had a really great conversation. So that's in the pipeline getting processed now, and that's going to go up. And yeah, so just to give you a little idea of what we've been talking about recently is Bolt. And that second video is like an extension of that conversation where we go a little bit further. So we'll cover that, I guess, maybe in the next
shortly. Yeah, as soon as I edit the video, I'm working on it.
Exactly. But if you've been on the site here lately, you may notice that this looks a little different. And that is, we've got these images now, I guess thumbnails you could call them, but just these, I don't know, imagery to go with the aesthetic of the site here. And I don't know, I might have gone against the grain here, popular opinion for some people on using Gen AI, but those are all Gen AI images that I created using Sora. And I think that the main takeaway for me here is I'm big like anti-AI slop.
Same.
We talk about AI slop a lot.
I feel like that's the unwritten rule of this podcast is that we're trying to do like the non-slop AI usage or something like that. Look, I totally agree with you.
We at GTC, we saw everybody there, Adobe, Firefly,
right.
half a dozen tools that are using like avatars.
Right.
So, it's here. So
I remember that Adobe skateboard video pretty clearly because it was on Uncanny Valley. There's something weird about the feet pushing the board or something. Anyway, I do remember the skateboard.
Yeah. So anyway, it's here, and some of it's not great, it falls into that category of slop, and we all know it when we see it. And we were just laughing about some of the stuff that's on the Sora website. That's just
exactly
because Sora is mostly a video.
However, I think so. That's what I had heard of anyway.
Yeah. But it does image. I started off playing around just in the OpenAI ecosystem over the weekend with all of this because some of the recent models now are actually doing quite well when it comes to generating images that contain text. And that is, I think, one area for me that it's not slop.
I almost want to say disturbingly so. I think we talked about this in the green room earlier, but like the text is so good. It looks like a professional's gone in and kerned it or handled the leading or something like that, which for me passes the test. But I think the thing that I was thinking was like, would Jason be able to do this? No offense, Jason, but like sometimes putting the letters together can be actually time consuming. It can take hours.
Yeah.
But for looking at any of these, like comparison, like the space between the C, the O, and the M, that could take a lot of just little nudging. Just to get it right, and it's got it.
And they couldn't do this not that long ago.
Couldn't even get the letters right, let alone the kerning, the leading, all the layout, and all that stuff. Yeah.
It would make up things. It hallucinated letters, and anyway, it made like calligraphy.
Yeah, this looks like a proper font, like Arial or Helvetica. Some of them do look like Comic Sans, I will say, but these ones at least look like Arial or Helvetica.
Yeah. And it's not always just the text, too. You'll notice here we did an episode on Llama 4. And by the way, it always gave me two options here.
Okay.
And then I could like choose which one I wanted and just download it from here.
And is it picking like the font for each of these as well?
So I didn't give it instructions on a font. I did give it instructions on a few things. And let me pull that up, actually.
Because these are, and I don't want to get too nitty gritty, but these are slightly different fonts, which I find interesting. The U is different in some of those.
Yeah, they're not necessarily consistent. I'm trying to make my screen a little larger here for us.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It feels to me like they've invented a font, I guess is what I'm getting at.
You'll if you look closely, like there's several fonts being used in different situations here.
And sometimes they're uppercase, yeah.
So all of those were created from this prompt. I think that's readable, right? And you'll see I'm saying I want an image to be used as a thumbnail for YouTube video, although it turns out it can't do 16 by 9. It can do 3 by 2, but 16 by 9 it can't do.
A little bit too wide, okay.
And that's what you need You can upload anything as a thumbnail on YouTube, but if you go 3:2 rather than 16:9, there's always going to be these black bars on the sides.
3:2 I think is like photo aspect ratio, and 16:9 is like widescreen TV. Okay.
Yeah, and / YouTube thumbnails.
Gotcha.
And other things too. So anyway, I ran into, even though ultimately I was trying to create thumbnails for YouTube here, I didn't like them. They just didn't work. They weren't that, I didn't like the black bars. However, I had all these images that I made, and I decided to just use them for the website inside, or at least test it out, throw it up and see if it like passes the ick test for people. Does it pass the slop test? And try to keep some consistency on how they all look. And so what I did is just put in like a color palette, or the color palette of what we're using throughout the website from the styling. And then I always tell it to use this bubble molecular science lab art, which is something I just made up. I started off with like molecular art, and then added bubble art, and then just combined it all and said, let's just see what it gives me. I tried to force it to do some 16:9 stuff here, but I might as well take that out because it doesn't.
It's just ignoring it anyway. Yeah, fair enough.
And then I added this branding text here of AI Tools Lab, our little project here.
Yeah, that's a question I had for you, because I think that's one of the indicators that actually took me out of the thing, is that they're not always the same in each one. Whereas if you're branding something, you generally slap it on the front of it kind of thing, if that makes any sense. Because if you already had your graphic, but then it's like a watermark kind of thing. That was one of the few things that stuck out.
Yeah, and that definitely grabs your attention as somebody who like looks at stuff like this all the time.
What's that stupid joke? Design is my passion, or whatever. I'm not a great designer. Let's be real here.
But let's be honest, this would like make a designer or a brand person mad to see this like bouncing off the walls style of all kinds of things. It still stays in like the color palette, but
yeah, I don't think it's too bad.
When it comes to a brand, once you've figured out the AI tool,
absolutely, absolutely.
So, anyway, but here's the thing that I could have done, but I didn't. Is we've got a little logo that we've been using for the website, this little scope thing. I could have passed that in and said, here's our brand, here's our logo, and I want this and everything. And it would have done it just fine. But I just gave it a little bit more free range on what to do.
That cursor one's actually pretty compelling too, funnily enough, with their robot.
Yeah, isn't that?
Because it's got a gradient before the text. That one, to me, looks intentional. See where the text is like...
what's interesting is I didn't go with this one, though. I thought it was a little too much.
It does look like, there's a little bit more skill involved. I've been noticing when I'm generating images, if I tell it to make it look like I could have drawn it, it helps, because sometimes I get stuff that just looks too good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
With the bug catching. Yeah.
Don't hate it.
Wow.
I didn't hate any of these.
I'm honestly impressed.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've turned a corner here on
at the very least, generating text, I think.
Yes. Now, I started experimenting with different styles up here. I think this one is, I was trying to just a magnifying glass, and can I see? I guess I can't get in to see the whole prompt, but.
Now, is this free?
This was all, you know what? It's not free. I have a Pro account.
Okay, gotcha. I think I do as well. I should try it out, because I've honestly not used Sora for images. I've tried a couple videos here and there, but that's about it.
This is a Y2K aesthetic that I asked for.
I actually like that.
I do too. I was going to make this our dark.
That one on the right there is actually pretty good.
I think this might be our dark mode thing.
I hate to say it, because like I want to be, I guess maybe in my brain I'm like the pessimist or whatever, but like that one on the left is pretty good too. When I see some of this stuff, it's difficult for me to say it's bad, which is, we're definitely turning a corner.
It's better than what I would have done. I could have done it myself. Not everybody.
Show me the cats. Come on.
Okay, yeah. Then I was like, okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's start looking at. So I recently adopted another
kitten.
So
yeah.
2 kittens around here, and this is what Sora thought those 2 would look like, or some version of them. 3D cartoon of 2 cats.
Yeah, it looks, I don't want to say Pixar, but like animated movie kind of style. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, that's about as far as I got in there.
These are awesome. Like legitimately awesome.
I don't hate them.
Yeah, don't either. I can tell that these are AI generated mostly because it would be a big budget otherwise, but I don't see anything wrong with them. Got the right number of paws. Fur looks okay. Background's blurred properly. Like it's good, actually.
It's as good as it's ever been. And take that for what it is. So anyway, if we hop over to here.
Right, the mushroom. I did notice this.
Like, this is the stuff that I'm not interested in making anything like this unless you're like part of the Last of Us production crew and you're
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Weird stuff like this. But this was all Sora.
Wow.
and it's getting pretty impressive, folks.
So for all of these images that you've made, can they make animated GIFs or anything like that from them? Like it does allow you to, I think it's called like a seed image or something like that.
Yeah, I did not experiment with video
Okay.
and making, but I'm pretty positive I can pass in this image of the two kittens and ask it to animate some specific thing or put them in some weird situation.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's definitely on the to-do list because that just seems a cute thing.
Maybe
to
walking
do.
on your keyboard or something like that. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
been a minute since I've
exactly.
lived with a cat, but I'm pretty sure they
Yeah.
still do
Oh
that.
yeah. There's a keyboard ruler in the house. So yeah, we'll see. Definitely something to play around with. As a creative person, as an artist, and I genuinely feel like I'm artistic in ways that my opinion is, I don't know, valid for this stuff. I feel more enabled now to just take an idea and get it out there so much
Right.
faster than I used to. And I don't feel like it's taken anything away from me. What I would have done is nothing. I wouldn't have created an image
You wouldn't have
of the
started.
two kittens. I just
Right.
wouldn't have, but now I can. And it gives me all these other ideas to like go do some fun stuff too.
Yeah, immediately I want to take a photo of your cats. It looks not anything like that, but like that same pose kind of thing. It's, yeah, this is a good pose. All you need is a desk and a table like this. It's an easy setting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, also, I just noticed you may have seen it on video. I'm sure people watching the recording will see that. But the reason I didn't do the video is because it says video generation is temporarily disabled for new accounts.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
And I think you just have to basically verify your account in order to do that, which I need to do anyway in order to automate some of this, because that's another phase of some of this is like with those images we're using for the website, all I really need to send into the generator is the title, and the rest of it is pretty much boilerplate stuff. So that's pretty automatable, and OpenAI has an API endpoint to send it to do that, but you have to verify yourself. So I've got to go through that process, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, but just something you have to do. Okay, anyway, go check out Sora. The other thing I've been playing around with, and really just this morning, is another tool very similar to the one we looked at last week, and this one's called Lovable.
Okay, so similar to Bolt.
Yeah, so you're familiar with Lovable?
I've heard of it. I've honestly never used it. I love this design, though, speaking of website design.
Yeah, let me pull up.
A lot of these companies are opting towards like the hand-drawn, like the Claude logo is like a hand-drawn. Anthropic's got a bunch of that sort of human kind of design. I like this.
You really think it's human designed after what we just looked at?
I know. I'm trying to say there's no hyphen in human design. It's like a space. But I feel like this, what do we call this? Like noisy background gradient kind of thing actually also looks like filmic or film-like.
Yeah.
Very interesting to me. And then the Lovable, I don't know, maybe machines do have love, but for now it feels like this is a human emotion.
Yeah. So I played around with this and I had a good time. There is like one caveat that I want to point out about this thing is that you really, on the free tier, you can only do a very limited number of things. And I'm being very vague around the language when I say things, because I can tell you it's tokens or I can tell you it's credits. I think they use the word tokens. No, maybe it's credits. I forget actually, but you get 5 per day. And it's basically an interaction, prompt response. You get 5 of those. And it's hard to do a lot, complex stuff, unless you give it a ton of instructions in each one of those 5. You got to really make the most out of your prompt. And anyway, it was a lesson learned this morning as I like burned through my 5 questions. And so anyway, I had to log in with a different account this here so we have a fresh slate. So anyway, just a caveat of Lovable. If you're not paying for the I think it's the Pro tier is their next one up above free, which is $25 a month. Then you get 100 interactions a day, or credits, I believe, or tokens. We'll have to check. See what the language says here. But as you probably noticed, this does look very much similar to Bolt, like what we looked at last week. In fact,
I think a lot of these sort of text box prompt apps look the same. It's just an empty text box with, again, some prompts on the bottom that you can click to auto do stuff. But a lot of these look very samey. Would agree. Yeah.
And Bolt, their message here is prompt, run, edit, deploy full stack web and mobile apps. Whereas Lovable is idea to app in seconds with personal full stack engineer. So
I might, at least for Bolt, I might feel like this is a better description of what Bolt was trying to do anyway. build a draft or something in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has all the same type of stuff that we saw with Bolt, where they've got little suggestions. Sort of
I did
templates.
notice that mine are different than yours.
Oh,
which,
okay.
yeah. So I'm just for funsies, I'm running a weather app in my screen just to see kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I had one that was like a 5-day forecast app. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Okay. So it does give you
refresh.
many. Now that's different. This I have not seen, where they're going through a cycle list of them, because I have not seen that. I think this is static.
Yeah, it does seem.
Yeah, I like that actually. And again, thinking more in meta, like if we were to develop something with a chat screen, what would we want? And I feel like that surprise of refresh the screen and get another from the list of things that work. That's pretty smart.
Right. Yeah.
And
like
import
I wish I
Figma.
could see
Okay.
all of them, though.
Exactly. Give me the whole list. Yeah.
I don't want to just sit here and scroll.
Until you get a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. But when I first pulled this up, one thing that jumped out, and I don't know why it didn't jump out on Bolt, the full stack thing, but the personal full stack engineer jumped out to me, and I just wanted to take that a little bit verbatim in terms of the project I gave it, because I can come up with lots of little easy websites for it to make and whatever, but like full stack engineer implies some other stuff.
Right. There's at least 2 layers to that stack, I would assume. Front end, back end, some other stuff.
So anyway, I've been kind of sitting on this idea for an app that a friend of mine has asked me about. And the point, or I guess the goal of the app is to allow you to capture notes about a place that you're planning on going and visiting, or maybe you are visiting, and just capture some notes that's not in Google Maps and one of the other big travel apps out there, and just having more of a personal experience. And that to me seems like a fun little project that we could try to build over a weekend, maybe. And it's definitely going to need like a database, and there's probably some API calls. And we're really getting into like more of a full stack situation from some of the other projects that we could throw at it. So I decided to start there with my project, which is a big ask, I felt like, for any of these things. And anyway, let me just step you through what this app is, where it is now. And then what I'd like to do is, because I only got so far, is I'm going to take the exact same prompt that I used for this, and I'm going to start in a fresh window and see what the experience is like. Because there's a few interesting things around Supabase I want to point out, as well as GitHub. If we were to, let me see if I can scroll all the way back to the beginning here. Yeah. Okay, so one thing I went ahead and did before I got just too ahead of myself is I saw that there's only 5 things we can do, 5 interactions that you have with Lovable. So I went ahead and created kind of what we've been talking about previously with a project requirement doc, like lays out everything that this thing's gonna do, what I expect the architecture to look like, the stack. So gave it a lot of stuff so that we didn't have that back and forth and just wasting my interactions. And I think that helped me get to where I am. So that's my first piece of advice. And honestly, that's something I think we've determined we need to be doing with all of them, is coming up with a plan, unless you're really just tinkering around.
No, I totally agree. It feels like the same as if we were dealing with like an actual a full stack engineer or something like that. The more detail you give them, the better results you're going to get back. Totally agree.
Even gave it some, I thought originally I was going to do something with,
you get like SQL migration scripts in here and stuff?
Yeah, I went ahead and get it some templates to scaffold out the data. Database schemas. But this was, I think originally I wasn't totally sure I was going to use Supabase. I was just going to use Postgres. But it turns out that in Lovable, they've got a really nice, if you can see this logo up here, really nice Supabase integration. And what I've learned about Supabase, I need to spend a lot more time with it, but there's a lot of CRUD interactions that you can do directly into your database that don't require these other more complex OAuth interactions and calls to handle some of that stuff. It seems to make life really easy for an app of this kind if you just go with Supabase and let it handle a lot of that stuff. So anyway, that's where we ended up, is using Supabase simply because it's all baked into this.
Yeah.
Have you played with Supabase yet?
Just a little bit in this kind of fashion, where you click on it, manage the connection, and the connection can be used by Bolt. It looks similar, maybe not exactly the same, but that's about it. Other than that, I went to Supabase and set up I think it's called a data collection or something like that. Basically where your databases live. A project, my apologies.
Gotcha. Okay.
and then attach the project to a Bolt. But that's about it.
Okay, cool. So I'm just scrolling through the here to just show you what it did, because there's one cool thing. I've got a screenshot of it that I can show. I think maybe if I can't get to it in here in the chat. Oh, here it is. My first attempt at this whole thing working didn't work. And of course, it looked different on the right-hand side of the screen. There was just an error there that said, oops, it looks like our AI had a bit of a hiccup and broke the app. And then it has a button that says, there's two buttons, one that says show logs and one says try to fix. And so I hit the try to fix. It goes off for a few, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 seconds and comes back. And I believe it notices that this leaflet package wasn't installed in its own sort of local instance, which is part of the mapping component. And so it took care of that and installed that package and starts giving me a few more things. And then I want to say there was another error.
I did notice the prompt was like think step by step. That's one of those older kind of prompt engineering tricks from last year or the year before. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say maybe it doesn't show it in the afterplay here, but I want to say there was another error that I had to ask it to fix. And eventually it got to where it fixed all the errors and the app was able to run. And I asked it to do a few things here. Remove originally when you went into the notebooks and you opened up one, there was like a thing about latitude and longitude.
That's surprisingly intricate for something that you built for free.
I'm jumping ahead here, but this isn't bad.
The design again, the blue on or black on blue, black text on blue kind of thing on some of those mouse overs, but it's pretty close.
Not my favorite color scheme, sure. And so anyway, it got me here. Now you may have noticed that if you go look at those notebooks and I click into them, there's not a lot of detail here. And I think if I was to create a new notebook and just say, here's where I am, create notebook, I believe, I get a little pop-up from the browser saying, okay, that it's been added successfully, but nothing's really going anywhere because I haven't connected Supabase yet. So anyway, but still, as a mock-up with just some mock data, like it's actually pretty decent, I thought. So I think I gave it a few more suggestions on here. This is where we decided to move into Supabase. Yeah, so now that I've added Supabase, it's trying to go ahead and make a few more changes to the config, I believe, to get the authentication handled and some of that kind of stuff. Then I ran into another error. What I love, though, is that I don't have to tell Lovable that I have an error or copy and paste it over. It just sees that there was an error.
That's pretty cool.
And gives me the option to fix it right then and there. And which is a not very nice experience. Let's see. Still looking at the error that came up. It was definitely something to do with the Supabase stuff because I hadn't popped into Supabase yet and set everything up correctly. And it looks, so around this time, it's realizing we haven't set up any tables yet, so it needs to do that. The app was connected. And then I believe, it attempts to set up my database tables here. And then I think we ran out of
gotcha.
At that point.
Yeah, the 5 credit limit.
And I can tell you, like if we go into Supabase, and it shows connected.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool. That dropdown is quite a bit different than the Bolt dropdown. Like it's SQL editor, edge functions, that kind of stuff. Like none of that is connected. They just feel like deep links, but that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, let me just log into one.
Yeah.
So I haven't spent really any time in here, but I'm assuming, nothing's been created yet. Let me zoom in here. This is why the app isn't working. Is like there isn't a table in here,
right.
So there's nothing's been set up yet. So I just need to spend some more time with it. But I thought maybe we could, in the time that we have left, just take that same prompt and go through the experience together.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense, if that sounds like, unless you've got a different app yourself that you'd like to play around with.
No, that's great. I was playing around in a weather app that definitely did not work. I thought it was interesting, guys. A lot of these promise like a fully working app, 0 shot or 1 shot. And I guess I always just want to see if it works. It made a website, but it didn't actually use the API key properly, but it was fun.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right, so what I think I'll do is I've got the prompt that I used, and I'm just going to we'll pull up Lovable here. And I'm logged in as a different account. So we've got a fresh install, fresh situation here.
Is this how we do startups these days? We just work on free accounts with Lovable until we get something that
Listen,
works? Let's go.
If you're only going to give me 5 interactions, that's...
There is a lot of freemium stuff going around. Like that does seem to be the business model for a lot of these apps. So we'll give you a certain amount for free kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just saying you got to use a little behavioral economics to understand what you're encouraging people to do. And
exactly. Yeah, you're motivating them to create more than one account.
Exactly. So anyway, let's start with our second account. And I'm going to paste in the prompt. I guess you'll have to take my word. This is the prompt here, but we'll scroll through the whole thing. It's got suggested layouts of the file structure, the tables that I created. So this is exactly the exact same prompt that I used this morning when I played around with it. And let's see what happens. Also, this pops up pretty much every 5 minutes, it seems like. And just to let us all know that 2.0 just came out, and there are some interesting things. I will show a few of them, but I don't know if I'll get into every one of these things.
Did they always have a code editor? I thought they did not, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's maybe one of the reasons why I didn't kick the tires. I apologize.
I wanted to show this is because that's a new thing, and it's a little bit of an odd experience.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
I think I might have to switch over to the other account to show you because I've got that hooked up.
We can start here and go back. Yeah. Sorry, we can table that. I'm curious, obviously.
So, in fact, we can probably go look at it now because this will take a minute.
Okay, yeah, I think mine took literally a minute, which was pretty fast, actually. For this kind of thing, I felt like that was fast.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And it's already given us back some things here, but while it's setting up all the stuff that I gave it, because I was pretty detailed on exactly what I want.
Yeah, it does feel like a reasoning model almost. I was noticing that in the interactions, it will tell you what the plan is before it starts, whereas I'm not sure if Bolt gives you, it's not that verbose, I guess, when you're going back and forth with the prompting.
While that's baking, maybe we'll pull up something over here that I want to show you. So
yeah, I'm interested in this code editor.
Yeah, okay. This is the other project. It's already, right. There's some code. If you see this code viewer up here.
I do, yeah.
If we check that, it pulls up something that, to nobody's surprise, looks like VS Code.
Yeah, pared down, for sure.
Except for this read-only thing. If you want to update the code, set up sync with GitHub.
Hey, that's not a bad idea, actually. It forces people, especially if you're new to app building, it forces them through that flow. But I wonder, listen, I've tried to teach people Git and GitHub and all that stuff, and it can be a bit much for some people.
It can be a little bit of a showstopper for people. But here's the thing also that's a little strange is, let me do this. So when you click on the GitHub link or icon in the top right corner initially, I forget all the things that it shows you, but basically allows you to create a repo on GitHub. You got to log in and authenticate and everything, but then it's going to create a repo, but there's just the one branch. There's your main branch.
Oh.
And
I mean, that's an opinion. Okay.
Yeah. And everything happens there. Right. And so anything I do now moving
this
forward.
Is called, was it trunk based developing? But if there's only trunk, okay.
Yeah. You're forcing me to just push everything onto main.
Yeah. Which is, it's not great behavior. I'm just going to come out and say it.
But I actually am maybe a little confused because if I click this option here, edit in VS Code, it's going to launch VS Code in the browser, which is fine. This is
using the GitHub editor. Yeah.
Yeah. This is like a code space,
yep,
right?
Yep.
And I'm not actually going to go through the whole process because I don't care. That's what I'm not looking to do that. We can also just go straight to view it on GitHub.
Okay.
But otherwise, it seems like it's encouraging me to just copy
and do it locally.
Copy the repo and then open up my own IDE locally. Right. Am I missing something?
No. I think you got it. Yeah. So the code editor doesn't edit code. Sorry. Is this the same conclusion you've come to?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing. I can't edit anything.
I wonder. And there's no like opt-in to version 2 or version 2 has released, I would assume. Since you're in the code, quote unquote, editor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't see a way to really. It's read only, yeah, but if I want to update the code,
weird.
Sure, but that's step one. This is
That's very
now you
odd.
gotta tell me like
The other thing I was playing around with, because I also didn't think you could do an editor, there's an edit button as well, which seems to actually be completely different than I expected. So if you jump out of code mode, there's no what to call this. It's like a
this here.
yeah, and you go over to the app and you, I think, click on stuff that you want the app to edit. Like you click on an area and say, hey, edit this area. It's not working kind of thing. I also quickly ran out of credits as well, so I can't test it.
Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, yeah, here it is. So that's exactly what it is. Let's say I don't want this to say new notebook. I just want to say new.
Well, yeah, there's a button there that's blank kind of thing. So yeah,
I can. Yep, I can click on it and I can make changes here.
Oh, that's okay.
But I can also, if I had enough credits, I could come in here and say change the button so it just says new.
I hadn't, because I hadn't clicked on anything. I didn't realize you could go in and edit that way. That's, as a WYSIWYG, or which is what you get kind of editor, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we see why we can't see it's white font on white background. Okay.
Yeah, this is a great example. I should be able to, like, now that it's highlighted, come down into here and say, oh, looks like I can change the text too.
Yeah, but you can't change the color.
But I
or maybe I'm missing the color.
And instruct the model that I want. So yeah, that was one of those things that was mentioned in the 2.0 update. Modal that popped up. So that is novel, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. If I go back to...
Oh, and sorry, one more button there was the chat button, actually. So maybe it is in like a reasoning mode as opposed to a chat mode.
It is. However, so let's
see. Is it not doing edits when you're chatting?
It still counts. No, it still counts. Yeah. Because one of the questions that I asked was what's going on. Oh, hey, I just got a little audio notification.
Yeah, I was about to warn you about that. Sorry. Yeah, when it's done, it does do a little ding, which kind of threw me for a loop there.
So, error, just like the first time.
Fair enough.
And like I was telling you, the option to fix here. But let me just browse what it said.
And I like how it's got keyboard shortcuts as if you're doing this all
right. I was on my laptop or on my iPad this morning doing
just
this.
Tapping F. Yeah, fair enough.
Yep. Let's see.
Oh, and sorry, does this have an app or was it on the webpage?
Was it on the webpage? What do you mean?
On your iPad when you were using it? Were you just loading the web app?
Yeah, just the web.
That's cool.
Yeah, just
that's cool. I think we're at a good point now where these kind of IDEs and stuff like that can work on like a web browser, which is actually pretty awesome. Right on.
Clearly, there's some things that need to be done,
right?
Like setting up Supabase and all that stuff. But before we get the Supabase connected, I'm going to go ahead and hit this try to fix just so you can experience that.
Yeah, so it does say, please think step by step. And maybe this is where we're getting the reasoning.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's actually pretty fast. Like that time to first token for the reasoning that felt like 5 seconds, maybe? That's pretty quick. I'm already thinking of the cost, right? So you just signed up for one account, you got 5 credits, signed up for another one. I'm like, okay, this uses some GPU somewhere. So what I would do is put you on the lower tier GPU, but still is pretty fast.
Yeah. Hey, look, we've got an app running.
I almost like this design even more.
I think I like this one better, yeah. Because the other one, you couldn't... Oh, got an error. The other one, you couldn't... There was like no image in the card container or anything. But we got another error, so roll the dice and see.
You get 4 error fixes.
This is like that slot machine effect we were talking about.
Slop or slot, yeah.
Slop, yeah.
It does feel like the slop machine. I agree.
Yeah. It's just the or
you just pull the bar. Is it going to be the front end, the back end, or something else? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Or was it Outlook unclear?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, and that's a pretty difficult CSS error. If I understand what's happening here. Oh no, it's TypeScript. Okay. I would have a hard time fixing this problem, is what I'm getting at. I legit don't know front-end very well.
I never even heard of Leaflet until today.
Neither have I. I was like, what is Leaflet?
The Google Maps API, but I changed my mind on that because that's going to have a cost associated with it.
Not cheap, yeah.
I was hoping if I could make this thing, I'll just open source it, put it on GitHub, people play with it, but I don't want there to be any cost associated. Okay, so we've hit another error. And I think that's the first time I've maybe clicked on that section there to view the error itself. but not sure I'd be able to make sense of that. No, I'm not sure I'd know it was a build error. But anyway, we'll try to
It's a
fix
type
that.
error, yeah, a type error in TypeScript. The string URL string is not assignable to a reference. All right. There's a few of them in
So
here.
are you keeping tabs? I think this is the third wish we've given.
Yeah, and this genie in a bottle with 5 wishes. But the effort spent here, let's be real, is very minimal.
Yeah.
Like, even for me to have a conversation with an intern and say, or platform manager, what have you, hey, can you build this app real quick? Wouldn't be this fast, and that conversation would be a lot longer. This is cool.
Yeah. If I was doing this myself, probably, I don't know. I'm not sure what my approach, depending on how I'm feeling in the moment. Do I want to just improvise and figure things out along, or do I really want to think all the way through and then just implement?
No, I think I have a problem. And is it tab addiction or something like that? Like the chat and stuff, that's awesome. But in Cursor and in Windsurf, typing away and it will suggest stuff to you. And it's not always right, but often if I give like a note or a kind of comment at the top of what I'm going to do, the tab completion will get me pretty far. And it's like this, but it's a little bit more directed. I'm loving it. Like it's actually quite handy.
Yeah.
That's probably what I do. Like today. Last year, I'd probably do a lot of research. I'd read all the docs first. I'd be in those leaflet docs for a couple of days.
We just got another error.
Shoot.
It did make some progress. If you're looking at the screen there, you saw that it started to display some things. And this was my experience the first time around.
Okay.
There was a handful of, I shouldn't say handful. There was 2 or 3 errors that it had to work through.
Now, the other thing I've been hearing about, and this is maybe stuck in my brain, but I'm not a test-driven development person, but a lot of the workflows that I'm seeing these days, and in this kind of like slot factories, hey, I want to get an idea out quick, is let me define all my tests, and I'm going to write those by hand kind of thing. And after I've got my tests written by hand, if the code doesn't conform to the test, then it's not working. As long as I've written my test properly, then the code generated should adhere to the test and be working.
That's correct.
I think on my end, I need to flex that muscle on the writing the tests a little bit better, but I feel like that does sound like a rational approach to me.
Absolutely. And that's probably one of my regrets on this, is in that I spent all that time creating the requirements doc and I didn't add anything in about testing.
Gotcha.
And I think if I had, it would have taken that approach. And
yeah, I also just read this like last week, so I was playing around with it, but it does feel like that is a better, maybe more like architectural kind of approach.
Yep. So we had another error there.
I saw that. Yeah. Are you on? Is this 5 though?
I'm thinking we're at 4 or 5.
Okay.
I wish there was a better way to see the count.
Right. I think Bolt had that credits or tokens remaining kind of thing.
Yeah. I forget where I did see it eventually, but let's let it finish what it's doing.
I'm still impressed though. This UI is fairly usable. Like I'm thinking about beginners, right? There's not a lot of buttons to press on. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And if this doesn't wrap up soon, there's one other feature I wanted to show that I thought was pretty nice. And I don't know if it differentiates itself completely from Bolt and some of the others, but I think it does point to a feature that I believe will be important for a lot of the non-technical people that might be experimenting with this, and that is that publish option up there.
Right.
Also, there's a preview.
Oh, I didn't see the preview. I did play with the publish, yeah.
Yeah, so that arrow up here, this is our preview.
Oh.
Open a preview tab. But until we get rid of these errors, there's really nothing.
It's just going to be an error, yeah.
Yeah, we got another error. We'll say this is more errors than last time. But the fact that I'm not doing much other than just...
They were just chatting about it. It's like backseat driving or something, just directing.
We have been doing this now for, what do you think, like 15 minutes?
It feels like 15, 20, yeah. I would say so. It feels like each iteration is about 2 to 3 minutes. Interesting. So some of the stuff, some of the reasoning is what helps me learn about React and how it works. So the props here and the TypeScript errors and the map container component. Yeah, this is very interesting to me.
To me, you know what I just realized? This is front row rail riding of chaos engineering. We're just sitting here watching this thing go.
We're in like a sidecar on some vehicle that's going somewhere.
I didn't know what that map container component could even be a problem in React. Now I know what problems could happen.
Yeah, failure modes for sure. Yeah.
At least in TypeScript.
I mean, absolutely. And I've been learning a lot about, I think, been talking about like the package ecosystem or the JavaScript ecosystem or just Node kind of stuff, because I honestly hadn't played with it much. And just it's eye opening for me what the common problems actually are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely helping me just learn more in general.
Oh,
We
we
got
might have hit our last
another
here.
error here.
Oh, it keeps going.
I'm going to give it this one more time, just for the sake of time, because I feel like we're getting a little long here.
How did we go by 5? Did we forget how to count here? What happened? Was that 5?
Yeah,
that had to be 5.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's not counting the error if it has to fix an error.
Oh, maybe. Mine was full of errors, but sure. that would be cool if it's not like
more
if it's
just like me asking.
Yeah.
But either way, just because we don't want this recording to go forever. If this fails again, I'm going to switch over to the other installation or the other project that it created, so that I can show you the preview and the publish options. Cross my fingers here, hoping this one is going to work.
If not, I can show you what I built, which I finally did get working.
Oh yeah, let's see it. Did you get something?
I did.
Error?
So
let me stop my screen. We'll take a look at yours.
Yeah, no problem. And listen, this isn't super compelling or anything like that, but it's just one of the samples. Is that showing okay? Is that legible? Yeah. Legible-ish? So what I did was, oh shoot, don't seem to be able to go to the top here. Just one second. I think I'm in this. There we go. Edit mode. If we go to the top, so this is one of those shared prompts that they had. So it's a weather dashboard using Open Weather Map API. I'm actually legit interested in weather now that GenAI is becoming a thing, because I feel like the reasoning could be handy for like a fuzzy weather thing. Anyway, this is what stuck in my craw. And it's okay, let's have them add their own API key in a local storage backend. That did not work. Saving the API key that you see at the top, I basically told it to hard code it once I got one in OpenAI, and then Open Weather Map API. But what I found interesting here is that once this was all set up, like there's no reason to change this key because I don't think it actually works. It's like fairly good. So we're in Denver. Like I don't know. I think I'd have a hard time building something that like refreshed this fast.
That's really responsive.
Like I'm actually impressed, and I think the colors denote like what the weather is. Like this is okay. Like I would use this. I would straight up use this. And I've just learned a couple things because I can now, like I've got it connected to GitHub, so I can now publish it to GitHub. I probably remove the API key and remove the hard coding and stuff like that. But to me, this is already pretty usable, which is very surprising, actually. I did not expect this to work. I hate to be the pessimist again, but like I've used a few of these apps before. And I think I got to, and there's an API key in here. Sorry, I was playing around with a few new ones. But I think the main thing that I had is that there's a lot of data in here that's different than quote unquote weather, or at least to me. I'm thinking temperature and is it raining or not. Those are like, let's call it the bare minimum requirements. There's a lot more in here that's part of the API that I thought was interesting. So it tells me the date, which shouldn't be needed, but is handy. The 5-day forecast has things like shortened, what am I trying to say, day words, shortened words for the days in here. It's done a lot of stuff. Like it's human describing the conditions as well, like clear sky, but also giving you an icon. Anyway, there's a lot to love in here that are like minute little details that are pretty important. We talked about design before, but like these blues mostly match, which is pretty good. I said the weather dashboard is a little bit too bright, maybe, if anything, a little bit too like saturated on the top. But this is like a fairly well-designed app that took me, while you were talking, so I don't know, 10 minutes? I'm impressed. This is actually fairly good in 5 prompts. Yeah. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Let's tell you, since we're already just sharing your screen, why don't we take a look at the preview option on yours?
Oh,
mine's still cooking away.
Oh, I published it too. My
nice.
bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this the preview? There you go.
This is the preview, yeah. And I can zoom in a bit, sorry. Oh, and it's got that, look at that. I like that little watermark down there. Okay.
Yeah, so to remove
this is what you want, right?
You got to bump up to the pro or to the paid version.
But they got to make money. I get it. Yeah, get people in there. And then I think the published one is the same. The only difference is the URL is lovable.app. Oh, okay. So it's preview --. And then this is, gotcha. Okay. I'm actually, yeah. Just going to quickly look at the source. Not that I'll know everything that's going on, but. Okay, there's a badge. I guess we could probably get rid of that and get rid of the badge. If this is... It's pretty simple. pretty easy to reason through. I don't know. I guess I'm impressed, and it's pretty rare, but not bad. I think I was like just assuming this would not work, so I never really kicked the tires. And also the lack of code editing for me, at least, felt like it was a non-starter.
Yeah.
And I still feel like what you showed me is a little bit clumsy, but it's there at least.
The other thing we didn't do that's a sort of a feature I think that they're using as a differentiator is that invite option up there.
Oh.
I believe the two of us could collaborate on a workspace.
Like a team.
Project. Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
And
I like that.
I don't know if that's like a workflow a lot of developers are going to be down for, but maybe on some projects.
I'm constantly impressed with this stuff, at least on the front end side, I guess, because it's front end, it's whiz bang to me. It's very like amazing, but like I can read this CSS. Like I've been in enterprise where you've got CSS files 1,000 lines long. You can't tell what's going on. This seems like a good starting point to actually start playing around with an app that could tell the weather for you.
Yeah. You just got to be really efficient with your prompts.
Yeah.
Because
the fact that I was using one built-in, I think helps, and you as well. We got pretty far with the built-in prompt.
Yeah. And another piece of info I think we're learning is that the fix error option does not count towards the limit.
It seems like it, hey? Agreed.
Because mine is still chugging along. I don't have really a whole lot to show just yet, although it's it's still getting errors. So why don't we not worry about showing my app again, just because it's not there. And actually what you demonstrated was very similar, I think, in results.
It's similar in design and workflow. It feels like they probably have a safe sort of design that they're slapping on top of stuff. I did that humanized looking one, the one that was like off-white with the blues, the muted blues. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Overall, it was a fun experience. I think I still have to. Obviously, there's limitations on my account, so I just can't do much and get I can get an idea out of my head and then come back to it later, which is nice. And really a benefit of a lot of things, like models, including just go start a new chat, capture the idea real quick.
Agreed. And I like the fact that they're showing off some APIs and stuff like that too, or like in your case, the leaflet thing, like it's teaching you how to do stuff. Because I would think like next step for me is, hey, how do I take your app and my app and smush them together? What if I want to know the weather of the place I'm going to? That kind of stuff. That's where my brain goes to immediately, and I don't even need to use this to do that, but I wouldn't have thought about it otherwise. So the fact that I can spitball ideas, I guess, to me is cool.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll use this over anything else in my toolbox right
I might be
now,
in the same boat.
But it's nice that there's another one there, and it'll be fun to watch it grow and evolve. All of them are moving so fast that this is their 2.0. They've got a couple nice little features in there that do set them apart from a few others. But they've also some trade-offs that aren't great.
I'm definitely going to use this Open Weather Map API. I've not heard of it before.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've used that before. It is definitely fun and got some cool stuff in there. The date's good for showing trends, going back and looking at things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I was running on Tuesday. My times were slower than usual. What was the weather on Tuesday? Being able to do those kind of things is pretty interesting to me because the weather can affect a lot of stuff, and we forget about that. It's a factor involved in the things that you're doing. Very cool.
Cool. We should probably say goodbye here, but just a couple of quick takeaways we can think of before we say goodbye is we looked at some generative AI images. It's something that's been, I think, controversial. You and I are both on the same page. Like, we don't love the stuff that you can just tell. It's just AI generated stuff. But man, are we getting closer and closer to being hard to tell?
It's harder to be the pessimist now. Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, if I can't tell, I don't know that I care anymore because it doesn't trigger that little thing of what is that?
Yeah, it feels lazy sometimes, right? When you're like, oh, you took 2 seconds to do this, when if you took 5, you could have found something on Unsplash or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But now that I can cut out the 10 minutes that it would have taken me to go create that media asset, and I know it's going to look consistent, and it's going to look basically up to my, maybe it's a low bar, but it's up to my.
We're forgetting like the background and the cropping and the resizing. Like all the other stuff involved. Yeah,
totally. For my needs, it's a little project. I just wanted some images. I think it's working out fine. So anyway, I'm changing my stance a little, or I'm warming up to some Gen AI tools. I still think there's some dangers out there, especially with video and deep fakes.
Agreed.
And that's like another thing we need to talk about. But anyway, here we are. So check out Sora and check out just some of the new Gen AI image models, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And I signed up as well. I get the same warning about the video stuff. So I assume after a couple of days or whatever, I'll be able to use it. But
You
that is
gotta
awesome.
give them some ID. You gotta give them a passport or
Oh,
some kind of government ID. You gotta
oh
show them
shoot.
you're a real
Okay.
person.
Like,
Yeah,
all
which
right.
is good.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Again, back to the risks. Yes, that is in fact good.
And so the other thing we did is we dove into Lovable. I would say I love Lovable. It's very lovable.
Very
I
friendly.
Yeah, but I did not get a complete working project done. You got something, little proof of concept, but you
Not
used
too
their
bad.
template, whereas I came
Yes.
in with my own plan.
And you'd assume the template should be zero shot. It was close,
Yeah,
but
yep. It's very similar to Bolt in a lot of ways, which is good. I think good and bad. And Supabase is a kind of a cool thing that people probably ought to know. It's
I
not necessarily
agreed.
AI related, but just developers in general.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things Supabase does really well, which are interesting. One, it can do that Firebase like sync, which is it's something that in a previous life was really important as like a mobile phone app creator, pusher, what have you. It's super handy. The other is because it's hosted Postgres, it can run, I think it's called PG Vector, is an extension for Postgres, so you can use it for a RAG lookup. So it's become the quick and dirty kind of vector database that you can spin up quickly, use, and then throw away for cheap. Awesome. And the third is it does seem to be integrated into a lot of these applications, which makes it easier. So super popular database, has good vector embeddings that people are used to, and the fact that it's like quick and dirty is it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
It's like a trifecta.
Yeah.
Was it fast, cheap, and good?
Yeah. Very helpful. I'm impressed. Cool.
Same.
All right. Thanks, Ryan, for taking the time. And yeah, looking forward to, I guess, the next week. It'll be
Absolutely.
yours, and we'll dive into something fun. And
I've got plans.
yeah, cool. All right. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.